Everybody, this is Martha Creek, marthacreek.com. That's how to contact me. There's also over 150 videos and 150 podcasts and all matters of things there that you're welcome to. They're free. I have a dream, a desire, and a deliberate intent to get empowered teachings to the whole of the planet. And this offering, then those offerings, and this one today again is offered in that direction. And I'm very, very blessed to get to hang out with the coolest people on the planet that also share as co-inspirators with me for similar mission, vision, dream work, dreaming a world that works for all here. So I have with me today Reverend Bill Marchiony.
Marchiony?
Marchiony.
Marchiony. Start with swampy ground and go from there.
Marchiony.
Marchiony.
This is a great jumping point for us. So thank you, Bill. Thank you for taking the time here to share your own wisdom and to have what you're about to be uplifted to. So you know how to contact me. You'll hear from Bill in a bit about how to contact him. And as you're listening to this, be aware that you've been appointed here. So you're not hearing this by accident or anything like that, you're here divinely appointed as we are to bring this forward. So I want to encourage, as we start with this, that I've asked Bill to pronounce his name to me multiple times. I'm intent on saying it the way it actually is intended. And it doesn't hold. So two ways I could go with that today, which is to be ashamed that I didn't say it the way I've been taught and intend to, or accepting that it so far hasn't stuck with how to pronounce this word.
Well, obviously, Martha, there's still room for improvement, right?
Obviously.
If you got it right today, then there would be no further room for improvement.
Well, and
it's all about potential.
The room for potential not to experience anything in our life with guilt, shame, blame, self-hate, and recrimination. And as small and petty as that may sound to some of you, I can assure you from this one that it's nothing short of a miracle and a breakthrough. And I'm absolutely delighted that I had no gut twisting, no neck twitching, no throat closing, no anything going on when Bill got to pronounce his name again for me today. So if you take nothing away from this, and you can take away, it's an option about whether I experience something with shame, blame, guilt, self-hate, recrimination, I'm going to take another choice today, that there is another option for that. So here we go. So tell us then, Bill, I asked folks as going into these, if people were going to listen to this today, this week, or 2,000 years from now. So let's just start with what message you would want humanity to have. What would you want them to know that you think and believe is true, that would be inspiring, uplifting, empowering to them?
Well, the one that I've committed myself to is that your new life begins with a new thought. And that's actually how we named New Thought Philadelphia, which is our spiritual community. And then anchored it on, I think that if you have an entire book full of scripture that explains what you believe, it kind of misses the point. So we distilled it down to that one line, which I actually have my license plate frame. We believe there's one power, love, intelligence that creates everything, including each of us. And that we each use that same power, love, intelligence, or force to create our lives according to our beliefs. So that's the message. And I learned that message 30 years ago. And it has been transformative and empowering in my life. And what I want to do is hoist that message up as high as possible, that bright light of truth, so that people who are looking for it can see it over the horizon.
Wonderful. So tell us about your journey then. How'd you get a thought that, I can have a new life by having a new thought. I can have a new experience by having a new thought. So what's your story? How does it make its way to you?
It's one of those things that I think I always believed. Grew up in a mildly Protestant household, going to Sunday school. 2 weeks before confirmation, I realized that I didn't believe it enough to want to swear to it. And my parents let me off the hook, which was really curious. And I spent the next 20 years just wandering in a spiritual desert. And then when my daughter was born, my wife and I wanted to have something to attach to. And so we went to a Unitarian Universalist church. We'd been married by a Unitarian minister. And it seemed like she was raised Jewish in a kosher household, and then rebelled against that and followed a guru for a while. And we were both sort of spiritual but not religious going on for a while. And we loved hanging around with the Unitarians. Our daughter grew up learning to sing the hymns, and wonderful fellowship. And I still always knew that this was true. We didn't talk about it at the Unitarian Church. And I noticed 4 years in, they didn't really talk about God that much either. And a friend of mine had suggested a religious science church. We were living in Fort Lauderdale at the time. And I was in the process of moving from Fort Lauderdale to Tampa. So we went a couple of times in Fort Lauderdale and then found a little church in Tampa. And we were kind of church hopping and found a religious science church. It was Religious Science International at that point. And we felt like we'd come home. And it was wonderful. And that's where I discovered the teaching. We did the foundational class. It was a really small group. It was in our living room, which was great because we didn't need a babysitter because my daughter was 4 at the time. And one of the things that I'd been trying to do for 10 years, I kind of moved to Florida by mistake. We were trying to get back to Philadelphia and couldn't put the job and the move and the rest of it together. And my wife also wasn't sure if she wanted to move back into the area where her family was, if she could handle that. So the company that I was working for was part of an international or national organization. And they put our group in charge of running a trade show. And it was a different place every year. And that year it happened to be in Philadelphia. So the company sent me and the family to Philadelphia for 2 weeks with a hotel to live in so we could dip our toe back in and see what was going on, and confirmed, yes, we would like to live in Philadelphia. And a month later, the boss came down from headquarters and closed up the office. Said, we're not doing this anymore. He laid everybody off except me. He said, we'd like you to transfer to home office in Philadelphia. And and did some more of the church hopping when we got up here, because I knew that it worked. I had proven to myself that it worked and loved it, and found the Center for Conscious Living eventually, and studied with Carol Lawson there, went through practitioner studies. And my teacher from Tampa moved up and took over the Center for Spiritual Living in outside of Philly. And so we went there, and I did ministerial training there, and still with always this passion for wanting to share this teaching. I wound up being a teen group advisor. Who knew that I wanted to deal with teenagers? They seemed so annoying. But we got an invitation to take the kids in our group to Key West for President's Weekend. And they were willing to go because it was Key West on President's Weekend. And they hated each other, but they went anyway. By the time we came home, they were best friends, and they knew that they wanted to have a teen group like the one they had in Florida. And it was one of those transformative moments like you see in the movies where somebody says something and the air shimmers. It's like we were changing planes in Atlanta and they said that, and it's like goosebumps. And so I wound up starting a teen group and connecting with other teen groups, and we built the Northeast region into a big regional teen program with, I think we probably had 15 centers from Rhode Island through Virginia, and 150 participants, and we were doing our local camps and stuff like that. A very clear calling to start a work in Philadelphia's major market that didn't have a religious science church on the premises. And there's a really strong calling to create that with my partner, Dave Schbach, and I. And that was at the time that the CSLs were merging together. And that was just when we were finishing up ministerial training. And it became clear that the behemoth organization that was growing into was not going to be happy with some of the changes that I wanted, because I'm a huge fan of doing new thought, but in current language. Ernest Holmes, a wayshower and a genius, and spiritual mind treatment is brilliant. And I know exactly why he languaged it the way that he did, and it was perfect for the times. But what I tell people now is when somebody has an issue and they tell their friends that they went to see a religious science practitioner to get a spiritual mind treatment so they could manifest a demonstration, the person inside the circle will go, "Oh, that's great." And anybody else would go, "What are you talking about?" So we relanguaged it. In all of our classes, we play a game called Lingo Bingo, where if somebody says something that sounds like jargon, the students are invited to interrupt. Let's say, "That sounds like lingo. Can you explain that?" And we'll dive into what we meant when we said it, and the different ways that we can language it. And all of our students are sort of they're dual language. They understand and they speak the traditional language, but they also have the new language. And I wrote it down. It's my book is called Practical Prayer for Real Results, which is a spiritual mind treatment to get a demonstration. And instead of arguing about whether there are 5 steps or 7 steps, we didn't number them. We put icons on them. So if you need 5, you get by with 5. And if you need 7, you do that. And if it's going to take 9 or 13 or, whatever odd number it's going to be to turn the consciousness around, that just works. And we have been growing the community and connecting, and so that's basically my story. That's my mission, is to be a beneficial presence and to share that bright light of truth with as many people as are willing to listen.
It's amazing to hear it and to track with you that you are incorporating the principles and living the principles through in all of this that you've presented in every step of the way, that it's no difficulty to track how you are living the principles and being about that in the world, in your life, and making a move, discerning, going back, testing it out, giving pause, certainly treating, praying. I love hearing you say that you wrote a book on how to pray that will not tell you how to pray, other than pray the way that works for you. And it may be 5 steps, 7 steps, 9 steps. And that here is something that's worked, tried, and true, that has proven efficacy to it, that leaves an opening for people to give it a go or not. And I believe if we're to make it, if this is sustainable, if we are the ones to carry this teaching into new lingo and new language, that's going to be necessary, critical, vital even. I also love that idea, so I'll absolutely be loving it, because I work so intently, deliberately, to take lingo off of things and to stop quoting. I work in different fields, as you know, in different arenas, and I'm like, if you bring a Byron Katie quote in here, it's absolutely, you're going to be busted. So we got to have some busting going on. So just framing it up and keeping it a little more lighthearted with lingo. And it's not, I love Byron Katie. I've had a transformation of my own mind, heart, and my own paradigms and worldviews through the work. So nothing against what we're referring to here, just like the quotes of Ernest Holmes is not transformative by just knowing the quote. The knowledge of the quote is not the transformation.
Yep.
Applying the quote, applying the teaching, practicing the teaching is where the transformation has been for me and the people that I witnessed. So that's what I'm encouraging here. I've also loved the fact that you had that kind of energy around you. So I'd love to open that up, Bill, for your insights. It's one of the things I've been the most mystified about in a new thought arena, and how much heart, intention, guidance, leadership, resources, money, planning, camps, weeks, weekends, travel, chaperoning, curriculum, everything under the sun to resource youth development in New Thought, in the arena that you have been very called to and led through. I've seen it in Unity, and those youth are not around now. Generally, there's always an exception. I can round up 10 names. It's like, yes, out of thousands that was involved not too long ago. So what's your take on that? What would you say about that?
I think there are a couple of things that are going on. The youth themselves, I think, are more skeptical these days because they have so many ways of connecting with each other. And unfortunately, it's on a very broad, superficial level. And there are times when they're willing to go deep, but it's much more fluid than it is when you got to get together with your friends. And the other piece of it that I've seen is that working with, and I'm specifically focused on teens, because our teachers are great at teaching adults. They can take somebody who is, has their family and has set up their philosophy and teach them these tools and let them have a transformative life and raise their kids. We're pretty good at dealing with the younger kids because we can put them into junior church or school, and it's another day of school where the teacher will teach them and they will listen and they'll do as they're told. And to my way of thinking, a teen, excuse me, a teen is someone who used to be a kid, and they know that they're not a kid anymore, but they don't know what they are. At that point, they're on their own path, and we can't teach them anymore. The process becomes completely different. It's about creating experiences where they can find out for themselves, give them some learning experiences. And there's some teaching that can be done by giving them tools. And, like I just, with my team group, we spent the last session just diving into prayer, because they kind of knew how to do it, but it's like, let's do the steps and let's create a prayer, and have it be something that you'll leave with the tool. And they were very grateful to be able to do that. And it was time that was well spent. But it's a lot more interactive about, well, what will we do next? And how's that going to work? And cooperatively build that together, because that's how the teaching works and that's how it lands. My description of it is, if you take a group of teens to a labyrinth and you say, we're going to walk the labyrinth. Here's the opening. That's the middle. This is how you pass somebody, go. They'll walk the labyrinth. They get to the middle, they'll walk back out, and then they'll spend 45 minutes talking about it and what the experience was like for them. Do the same thing with a group of adults. They'll ask questions for 45 minutes before anybody will step foot inside the labyrinth. They want to have all the questions answered and understand it in their head first. And somewhere between teen and young adult is where that switch happens back. One of the things that's been the most challenging for me is the number of kids who grew up in my teen program who aren't involved anymore. They aged out of the teen program. They didn't really feel like grown-up church was something for them. They went off, and they were distracted by college and then young adult life. And then they come back. Then they come back around. But there's that gap time that only a select few have been involved in. So it's about shining the light. The thing that's really attractive to teens is other teens who are shining that light and willing to love them unconditionally and engage with them and dive deep.
Well, I've not seen, so is that your direct experience, Bill, that they are coming back into that? Because I've not seen that. And youth was my flag, youth and family was my flag in my early days of this, writing curriculum, serving these groups, supporting them in any way I could. And I was absolutely believing that they will be back. They understand where it is and how it's going to be beneficial to them, and it's just not coming. That's throughout Unity. That even though they had a lot of transformational experiences, we have record of them, recordings of them. We had them speaking out loud about these experiences, what we were creating for them, and they're not coming. And I can't explain it other than they're not into a talking head at 11 o'clock on Sunday. And until it's something besides that, then we can't sanely expect them to join in. So where are you seeing them come back, and what for? And if not, where are they? How are they going to? Am
I seeing them come back? No, I'm seeing 20-somethings show up fresh. And regardless of what background they came in with, we've got 3 or 4 that are actively involved in our community now. And we needed somebody to do video for us. So my daughter, who was producing a TV show, recommended a freelancer. And so he showed up and he started shooting videos, and he said, I think I should bring my mom here because she'd probably like this. And so his mom came and loved it. And she said, well, he didn't know, but we were involved in Unity when he was little, which of course he was right. So she loved it. And then he brought his girlfriend over, and she's now on the board, and they're 28 or 30. And so when they show up, they find that there's something relevant for them. It's possible that the talking head at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning is something that they are pushing against from when they were little, which is something that keeps them from coming back. Oh my gosh, if I'm going to go to church, I must be old. And that's just pure conjecture on my part, but I got a microphone here. I can, I can just talk.
Field is open for speculation. And know that I've really surrendered to it, but I still love asking the question, particularly for people that have some experience. So I'm not going to ask the question to people that's not been in a youth group or done something to corral them up or get a curriculum out to them or take them on a trip to Key West with that they couldn't comprehend what this could all be about. Right. But I love asking people with direct experience about this. And the people with no experience have all sorts of conjecture about it. They've got all the answers for it, although it's not based on direct experience, which I'm certainly in. So
I can tell you what one of the telltales is. I'll give away one of my personal secrets. When there's a minister who wants to have a teen group program, and they say that they have somebody to teach the teen group, it's like, you're not going to teach them anything. And if you think that it's somebody who is working in your junior church who's going to be able to do your teen church, it's a different kind of beast.
Yeah, that's clear as a bell and wonderful. And thank you for not holding that as a secret anymore. So,
oh, I've said it. Just, they don't listen.
You're planted and uplifted now, as you said, elevated. So every ear that can hear that's looking to serve a youth ministry in some way, to know that it's a different day and a different way, and it's certainly a radical departure from believing you're going to teach. I'm also curious then about something you said about them coming back. That what's your belief or direct experience about where they're getting what they were able to get through those organizations, through the teaching, through the trips, through the curriculum, through the experiences that were intentionally built and offered to them. Where is that coming from now? What is the source of that?
I don't think they're getting it. I think they aged out of the teen group, and since that's not available, they kind of aged out of their spiritual practice.
So, what's the remedy?
We need to be relevant, and I'm not sure what that involves, but I know what the process is. Innovate, evaluate, iterate.
Mm-hmm.
Think up something. Innovate, evaluate, iterate. So think up something, give it a try, see whether it worked, and if it didn't, use that information to try again. Or, as it says on the shampoo bottles that I don't use anymore, lather, rinse, repeat.
Yes. Well, music to my ears, Bill, and many things that you've said already, but this specifically, because I so often hear these ideas. So we run in circles of idea factories. And it's like, well, then go do something with it. And let me know what the efficacy of that is. What effect did it have? What was the effectiveness of that? The efficiencies of it? Things that I know. And until then, it's like it's an idea. So this is music to my ears to hear this, including the fact that it takes an uncommon stamina to actually do this, an uncommon motivation. So this, one of my friends and colleagues, Margaret Markison, has been serving clergy. She is clergy, has been serving clergy for 30 or 40 years. And one of her books is called Leaders Who Last. And specifically in this time, The first email I opened today is from a podcast and a writer named Carrie Newhoff about most clergy are in a state right now of thinking about quitting, doubting whether they have the stamina to carry on through these times that require what you're talking about here, Bill: innovation, evaluation, backing it up, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, throwing in the towel, run something up the flag, nope, run it up another one, nope, run it up, yes. And then the deeper stamina and commitment, devotion, spiritual practice, whatever it's going to take to do that. So what's your take on that? What do you believe it's going to take for leaders to last through this type of time that we're in, and with the energy that you're talking about? Like, it's going to require this kind of innovation and evaluation before it's going to be sustainable, for example.
It's possible that it's just human nature when something new comes along and somebody's overwhelmed that they say, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm leaving. I actually had a full-time day job in the technology sector a year ago. And it came to one of those situations that, I can't do this anymore. And I certainly couldn't make the changes that they were asking me to make. So there are some, who are going to stop doing it just, because of the wear down factor or the fear or the uncertainty or whatever, and we bless them. The other thing I've noticed, though, is that this is a calling. And if it's truly a calling from Spirit, Spirit will call back. Spirit has a way of continuing to knock on the door so that we have to do something. So I know a fair number of ministers who have retired and then come out of retirement. So anything is possible, especially now. I mean, our Sunday congregation, we have people now from all over the world. We've been working on our technology to do live streams and to be, accessible on the internet for a long time. And then we were forced to go to Zoom in March, and we're not going back. It's really kind of fun to have, people in Phoenix and New Orleans and Lisbon joining in on our weekly celebration. So those are the opportunities. It's not just a challenge or a drudgery or something else that needs to be done. I like to think of how, whenever Zoom gets annoying, and Zoom does get annoying. In a tech job, I was doing 4 or 5 Zoom meetings a day for 5 years. So this was nothing new to me. And every time a Zoom meeting goes sideways and it takes forever to get somebody connected to audio, I remind myself that I used to go down to the airport and get on a plane and fly someplace and stay overnight and rent a car and go out to the office so that I can meet with somebody and then find out that his kid was sick and he's not there. So yeah, Zoom can be annoying, but like, how much time do you not spend commuting? I mean, Martha, you travel the world and you are able to teleport yourself into places that you used to have to fly to.
Yeah. Well, that's I think it speaks to a mindset, Bill, for lack of a better way of putting it. And of course, there's been boogers. Of course, there's been Zoom exhaustion. Of course, there's been some of that. There's also been that prior to Zoom. So it's a new flavor of it, a new name of it, but it's nothing new where just a weariness will take over. There's got to be renewal, a restoration, a rejuvenation, a different mindset about it. And this mindset that's required now, this closed, kind of stuck mindset, will not open to what am I going to do? How can I do it? What would be sane and sensible here? Yes, I'll be tired. I accept that. Yes, I'll renew. Yes, there's some rest. Yes, I can learn something. Yes, my learning capacity is infinite, and that it's here to serve me and to serve me fulfilling a calling. So I imagine then hopefully somebody somewhere is thanking you, Bill Marchiony, for what you've done in the Zoom world and to serve that and to teach them and to make that possible for them. And I'm still inspired. Just this week, my friend said, I can't wait to tell you this, because I spent a lot of time in March training on Zoom. I'd been using it for several years too. Not for my teaching for classes, so that I could do whatever I'm going to do from wherever I am. So I was teaching and training and encouraging people to do it and showing them how simple it is and to keep it simple. And this woman said, "You'll never believe this. That father of mine who was on some of that training you did, who happens to be 105 years old, called me and said, 'Get over here sometime this week because I want a new background on my picture, on my Zoom business. I want to get a new posted up there.'" So it gives me some inspiration and some confirmation that we don't know what our reach will be and using Zoom and technology in general, just technology in general, to create this can cause in the world, and to get these inspired teachings and power teachings out to the whole of the planet. Now, when you said, I want to go back to, you said we're not going back. So speak about that, because I'm still witnessing people on a daily basis that want to go back, want to go back, want to go back, and they believe they're going to go back to ministry as it was. In my mind, they think they're going back to this lavish buffet where they felt good and hugged and held hands and sat by each other and broke bread and had coffee and sang and whatever else. And it's like, we're preparing them for what you're going back to is iceberg lettuce. To that lavish buffet model that you may be running. So that's another deep sense of loss, grief, despair, if that's not taken down prior to going back or getting back into that brick and mortar. So and then I hear daily reports that people did open back up and people didn't come back. They had 30 and 8 were there. We had room for 30 and 12 was there. So I've not heard from anybody yet that they had to close the doors for their capacities that they're allowed in whatever phase 2 or 3 of the openings they're in. So what did you mean about that? And what would you encourage people to begin to think about, to get their mindset, to change their mind about that, this going back business?
I just started teaching a practitioner class, and it's actually for a sister organization, one of the centers in Delaware. And I committed to doing a 2-year class, and we opened it up online. So sometime between now and June of 2022, it's going to be safe to be face to face with people. So this will pass. Even in 1918, after a couple of years, it was safe to get back together and have an event. But the commitment that we made is, even when we get the class back together, we are going to maintain an online component to it. So we're committed for 2 years. I've got a really nice camera that facilitates that. The times that we tried supporting people, who wanted to participate in a class remotely, are they going to be on the road? Can they dial in? We're in a noisy room with a bad air conditioner, and there's a laptop that's propped up and not good internet. So it really wasn't a good experience for that. We're committed to maintaining the online presence, and not, we're going to live stream so people can watch. We're going to work out ways that people can be together in person if they want to, and they can fully participate remotely if that's what they want to do, whether it's because they live in Florida for the summer, or because they don't feel like getting out of bed, or there's someone in their house isn't feeling well for whatever reason. So when I say we're not going back, we will go back to being in person. My New Thought community, neck and neck, whether it was the teaching or hugging people that came in first. So I love hugging people, and remember the last congregant I hugged on March 8th, as does said congregant. So we're going to go back to doing that, but we're not going to have to. We're going to have that flexibility. So we had the blessing of being in a rented space doing church in a box. And part of the problem that we had there was that it didn't have the right internet connection for us to be able to do the live stream. And there were reasons to be looking for a different space anyway. But at this point, we're committed to having a place that's going to be in the right location, that is easy to clean, and has the right access, and has the technology support so that we can be here and there.
Well, Godspeed in that. And it's delightful to hear and to witness you, to be a colleague and a friend and a brother, sister, soul, or whatever it is. So put on the recording here as we close how people can get in touch with you. So a website, an email, anything you want to put out here. And then, of course, that'll be in the links that are provided with the podcast and the videos. But put it on the record here if you would, please.
I will put it on the record here. The website for New Thought Philadelphia is newthoughtphilly.org. And being the technology guy, if you think at newthoughtphiladelphia.com, gets to us as well. Newthoughtphilly.org is the website, and all the info is there. We've got a Facebook page. We've got look at the website is the important one. For my own work, from my own ministry, that's bethelight.com, b-the-light.com, which is where you can have access to me. I have a YouTube channel about practical prayer. And you can get information about the book either on the New Thought Philly website or on my website or all sorts of other places. And another thing that I want to offer up is when the lockdown started in March, I started doing daily meditations on Zoom. And I am still doing them twice a day, 8 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the evening, Monday through Friday, and there's one a day on the weekends. They're open anyway. The Zoom links are on the website, and we've had people, dialing in from Finland. And usually it's a relatively small group, but we connect up and talk, well, what's going on? What are we going to meditate about today? And I have an ability to do metaphors and metaphysical metaphor stories, which I put into a series called God Calls, which is a thing where the phone rings 4 times a week and has a 30-second message. And I do those as part of the meditation. So there are lots of different ways to find me and get a hold of me. My email address is all over, revbill@newthoughtphilly.org. But like I said, it's all on the website.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you know how to get it plugged in here. Know that you've been inspired some way to be about whatever you're about. You don't have to be about what Bill and I are about, but be about whatever you're about. Know that you're not alone in that we're also empowering you up and giving you wind beneath your wings to do that. And whatever it is, whatever you're calling, to grow and grow and more, and grow in your confidence of the certainty of the fulfilling of that call with your continued care for it and for yourself as you fulfill that. MarthaCreek.com to contact me anywhere in the world I can serve you. You're welcome to it, and classes and opportunities galore, all spelled out there on the website too. So until we meet again, know that you're loved. You're never alone. You cannot ever be alone. And whatever you're doing will take longer than you like in most cases. I'll see you around. Bye for now. MarthaCreek.com if I can support you. Blessings.